for MMA UK. Welcome to another edition of the MMA UK Late Show. So obviously, guys, tonight we've got a couple of special guests on with us. First of all, we've got MMA UK's own Steve Brigg. Thanks for coming on, Steve. Steve? So guys, Steve is actually froze at the moment. He's not posing, he's froze. So we will muddle on, and I'm sure Steve will join us in a moment or two. And you can probably hear her laughing slightly there. Special guest tonight. We've got the Daily Records, Tom Heffernan. Nice to see you as always, Tom.
Hi James, how you doing? Thanks for having us back on. Sorry, I was just laughing at the comedy timing of Steve freezing up there.
I know. It couldn't have been timed any better. We will get Steve back on at some point, so you can get a bit of Welshness into the MMA UK podcast, so it doesn't just feel like MMA Scotland. So we'll get Steve back on. So we have Steve. He's made it in. Like I said, he wasn't just standing striking a pose or sitting striking a pose. He was actually froze. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Oh no, it was a pose. I haven't frozen at all. It was a pose.
some Welsh Wi-Fi kicking in there. It's normally me that happens with.
The sheep stopped running for a second, so yeah.
Also, guys, this will be a slightly more professional one than normal because we have an absentee in Mr. Peter Knox. He's not with us this evening, so no tap-out T-shirts or anything of that nature tonight. So yeah, like I said, there obviously we've got a few things to talk about. Just what's been happening over the last week. First thing, obviously, everybody's been talking about it, McGregor, Khabib, but sort of ticket pricing's been released, and comparative to McGregor's previous fights, the UFC's hyped up the ticket prices, and although the card is a good card and it's quite a top-heavy card, I think like McGregor's last card was stacked from top to bottom. So, Tom, I'll come to you first. What do you think about the price difference for this fight and the card overall comparative to what we've seen from McGregor cards in the past?
I only had a look at that costing today, actually, and I'm not really surprised. There was a couple of sort of jaw-dropping prices on that as you get closer to the ring. But I mean, I think for what I could find, the cheapest is a few $100. That's you up and almost on top of the roof. And then as the closer you get to the ring, once you get to the floor, I think you're talking about a couple of $1,000, right up to five-figure sums. So the thing is, I mean, it's extortionate amounts of money for anybody. For the working man who is the core, the proper hardcore MMA fan, they're pricing these guys out a show. But what's going to happen is it's the biggest UFC pay-per-view we're going to have ever, or certainly going to break records by all accounts. So they're going to sell them. It's as simple as that. You'll get all these guys that come in that's got deep pockets that are just going to come in and jump on the hype train. Probably watched about 2 MMA fights in their life, but they can afford it, so they'll all jump in. But I can understand why the UFC do it, because they're going to capitalise on it. That's their job. They've got big. God knows what princely sum McGregor's going to get for this. Khabib won't be fighting for a couple of dollars. He'll be wanting a big slice of it as well. So that is what it is.
So just in something, I'll come into you in a minute there, Steve. Just in something you've said there, do you think the ticket pricing is purely? Do you think it's a reaction to the fee they're having to pay McGregor to come back, and obviously what they're going to have to pay Khabib as well as the champion?
Mm-hmm. 100%. They've got it. McGregor knows his worth. His last fight, as you know, was the money fight with Mayweather and reported $100 million and stuff like that. And if you remember after it, he's talking about I want shares in the UFC and all this crazy stuff. You know what I mean? So he's not going to be fighting for $10 million or whatever it was he was fighting before that. It's going to be obscene amounts of money. The only way they can do that is to break all records with Gates and the pay-per-view. So.
Yeah, I would before we move forward, I want to actually get your sort of take on the same thing, Steve. I'm assuming you've sort of had a look at roughly what the ticket pricing is like. What's your thoughts on it, the hiking prices for this fight?
I mean, UFC are going to do it. It's like Tom said, it is probably the biggest fight we're going to see in a very, very long time. It's a fight that everyone's wanted to see for a very long time. It would be the same if you got a football derby, and a hockey derby, a basketball derby, big boxing match. Everyone's going to up the price. But I mean, UFC need to cash in on this. If they don't cash in on this, then what they're going to cash in on? The only thing I disagree with is you were saying it's a stacked card. It's not outstanding. There's no. I mean, the next biggest names are Derek Lewis and Volkov. Other than that, there's not huge fights. For a card with Khabib and Conor on it, you would expect a bigger fight than Derek Lewis and Volkov. I mean, Derek Lewis just came off literally the most boring fight potentially in UFC history. So to put him as a co-main event for Khabib and Conor, if I was paying $2.5 grand for a front row seat, I'd be a bit pissy at that. I'd be like, I want a better co-main event than that. But I mean, they're obviously angling it. I mean, the UFC is showing a lot now where you get guys like Chris Pratt going, big celebrities like him, front row. There's a lot of pictures of him at fights looking excited. So they're obviously marketing it for guys like him. Then there's a thing like Dana. I don't know if you guys listened to the UFC podcast with Matt Serra. They were saying on that one of Dana's friends' sons was trying to get Dana's son to buy him tickets or get him a free ticket. And it's like, if guys like that are saying, I can't afford tickets, and it's showing that if guys that are roughly in Dana's circle can't afford it, then it must be a high, for an average person, or at least a normal person, it is a lot to pay. But that's the price people are going to pay to watch. I think the UFC knows that when Conor returns, every Tom, Dick and Harry is going to come out of the woodwork, going to start wearing their Conor McGregor t-shirts again, and it's a logical thing for UFC to do.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, or will be interesting, is I should say, how many Irish fans go over this time, because historically when Conor fights, if it's in Vegas or anywhere else, we've seen it all the time. There's what seems like thousands of Irish fans, tricolours everywhere, and all the singing and all the drinking of the beer. There's the fan base that he brings over is phenomenal. But when the minimum price of tickets is, whatever it is, $300, $400, $500 for the cheapest seats, add into that a flight, a transatlantic flight, a hotel room, and all the bits and pieces that go with it, all of a sudden that runs into thousands of pounds. How many guys can do that? But one other thing was talking about the card itself. Steve's right. It's not the card you would expect in a typical Conor McGregor fight, but there's a train of thought that the reason behind that is because of the fees that Khabib and Conor are going to have to be paid, that pretty much they can't afford some of the top level other guys.
No, you're right. Sorry, let me just go back and reiterate something I'd said there. I wasn't saying, what I was saying the card was top heavy, i.e. McGregor and Khabib. I was more comparing it to McGregor's cards in the past that have been stacked. So I actually agree with you, Steve, with regards to the card not looking that great. I don't think it does. What you're saying as well, Tom, with regards to other fighter fees, but surely if they're going to charge that amount for the card, and yep, they have got McGregor and that one. UFC is different for boxing in the respect that you watch a boxing fight and half the time you don't watch any of the card, you just wait for the one fight. UFC is different in the fact that the cards are usually brilliant from start, from early prelims to finish, whereas this is sort of moving away from that. Is it also part of the takeover WME? Do you think that's an influence? This is an influence of them going, or do you think it's just purely down to the sort of McGregor Khabib fees?
I hope not, because you're 100% spot on in what you said in terms of how a UFC card or any MMA card usually, but we're on UFC for the moment, but how they cards stack up compared to a boxing card. You're right, you're looking for the main event in boxing, and that's it. Couldn't tell you who's on an undercard in just about any boxing fight I've ever looked at. But the cards, UFC, top to bottom, even in undercards, you can get fighter nights and all that sort of stuff. There's always a name somewhere, whether it's early prelims, the undercard or the main card, there's definitely one or two names you're really excited about watching. It's not quite the same on this one. I hope it's only because what we spoke about a minute ago and the finance involved in this one, and otherwise, it would be a major blow to the sport.
I mean, I've changed my view slightly. I'm just looking through the card now, and there are good names on it, but they're not good names that your casual's going to understand. I mean, there's guys like Sean O'Malley that people know, but there's guys like Ryan LaFleur and who else did I see just then? Yeah, like Michelle Watson and Felice Holmes. So they are relatively good names, but
yeah, but they look more like fight night cards.
It's not a drawing card. I mean, people follow Sean O'Malley, but yeah, casuals aren't going to care about OSP versus Dominic Reyes.
Yeah, see, with regards to the likes of Sean O'Malley, I think that's a really good inclusion for the card because it's going to get a lot of eyeballs. So Sean O'Malley's somebody who I think is a star in the making. So you want to have a guy like that on, but is the average mixed martial arts fan going to know him? The casual fan rather, probably not. Certainly not in the UK anyway. So I think it's smart to have some young up and coming talented fighters mixed within the cards. But I feel like it's just sort of the bigger names they've just not. You can only compare it to McGregor cards in the past. Then you can only look at the cost of McGregor cards in the past to now, and it sort of just to me doesn't quite add up. That's really it, and it is a lot of money for anybody want to go and watch it. You're going to have to probably try to get a nosebleed seat. I'd imagine they're going to be, if not, are the early ones all sold out? If I'm not misinformed.
I mean, one other point I'd like to bring up is the way you're saying it is everyone will start referring to it as a McGregor card.
Mm-hmm.
And previous fights, they'll always start referring as McGregor fights. And
yeah,
that is what the UFC is selling it as. They're not selling it as, say, Khabib versus Conor. It's Conor. It's Conor returning to fight with Khabib.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think have we maybe lost? Sorry, we've lost you a wee bit there, Steve. We've got you back. I think we've got you back.
I was basically just saying the UFC are selling it as.
Sorry, guys. We seem to have lost Steve again. He's dipping in and out.
But what I think, I can't remember all of the card off the top of my head, but usually there's somebody roughly in the top.
Yeah.
Oh, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you fine, mate. Yeah.
But there's usually somebody in the same weight class, maybe a top 5 or whatever, a next in line guy hovering around. I know, what do you call him again? Man, what do you call him? I've got a blank. He's in training. He's looking for it.
Tony Ferguson?
No, God, can't remember his name. Kevin Lee, that's him. Sorry, Kevin Lee. Total mind blank there. He said that he's going to be in training. He's going to be ready in case one of these guys pull out because about Khabib's problems with weight cutting and stuff like that. So usually there's somebody there on the card, but that doesn't seem to be this time, I don't think. No, you're right. I mean, the card itself, when you look through, it's always a good idea to have that sort of guys that are in the top of the division fighting each other, potentially the next in line. It just adds that wee bit of extra spice. But it just feels like they've went a wee bit of a different direction with this card. And then obviously when the pricing came out, you're kind of like, oh damn, that's quite a lot. But I guess that's just the way they're moving with things now. But I'll certainly be watching it. I'm sure you'll be the same, Tom. Oh, aye, definitely.
So, well, I think
I should ask you, who do you think will win?
Do you know what? I genuinely have been asked that about 30 times now, and I honestly can't give an answer. My mind is changing constantly. I can see a clear path for Khabib to win, and you can see the same for Conor. I think this is a case of who implements a game plan.
I think I would go, if you could bet under 3 minutes, I'd bet Conor.
Yep.
Anything over 3 minutes, I'd bet Khabib. But I'm going to put money on Conor to win by knockout in the first.
I think that's probably a smart way to look at the fight. I mean, if Conor's going to get it done, he's going to get it done probably early in the fight. I mean, it's not to say it will happen in the first round. It could be that he gets took down, survives, he's going to get the opportunity to be on his feet again. There's definitely I thought a while back there, I think everybody thought Khabib would blow him out the water. Most people did anyway, but that opinion seems to have changed a bit now, where people now can see how that Conor could catch him, and if he does, could seriously hurt him. But I think it's definitely Conor's toughest fight. I think it's a tougher fight than the Diaz fight, personally, by a stretch. So, what about you, Tom? You've asked me the question. I know I've sort of dilly-dallied but not really answered it, and I haven't because I've not got an answer yet.
No, I'm nailing my colours to the mast, and I'm going to sit firmly on the Conor McGregor hype train, and I'm going to predict that he wins, and it's going to be some sort of TKO. He's going to be under the cosh, and then he's going to find that sweet spot, and then that'll be that.
And I'll just keep my ass firmly planted on the fence.
Yes.
Yeah. But just, you mentioned the UFC Unfiltered podcast there, Steve.
That's the one I was trying to think of the name.
UFC Unfiltered. Now, there was something brought up in that, and just while we're talking about sort of Khabib, Conor, there was a name that popped up on that that we never maybe thought could get to the UFC, and that name's Ben Askren. I believe, just in case you haven't heard it, Tom, or Dana White had spoke to Ben Askren a couple of months back. Ben Askren's basically asked, is there any way they can get him signed to the UFC? And from all accounts, Dana's not closed the door on him. He's basically said, you're under contract at one of your now, sort that out, then we can talk if you're a free agent. Personally, that got me pretty excited. I know maybe not everybody's that excited by Ben Askren, but I would love to see what he could do in the UFC. Just quickly, give me your thoughts on that, Steve. What do you think about potentially Ben Askren finally getting to the UFC?
Ben Askren is the most boring, interesting fighter you'll ever see. You have to appreciate Ben, you have to appreciate wrestling. If you're a casual fan, you will hate Ben Askren. You will not like him in the slightest. But if you appreciate mixed martial arts, what it actually is fundamentally, you will appreciate Ben Askren. And him in the UFC, he poses so many problems for so many people because he's a wrestler that knows that wrestling is his base. He's not going to stand there and try and knock guys out just for his ego. He's going to come in, he's going to get hold of you, he's going to put you on your ass, and he's going to just beat the crap out of you until you give in. And I think that's why he's never been signed to the UFC, because he's not that guy who's going to come out, sell 1 million tickets just off flashy knockouts and brash talking. He's going to come in there and work and grind and get a fight done. And it's, to a lot of people, it's not an appealing sight. But if you appreciate what the sport actually is, he's a very, very talented fighter and a very, very big problem for anyone in his division.
Yeah, 100%. And do you think then, see, obviously, I know the issues with Ben Askren and potentially, I know there was back and forth a lot between Dana, he was outspoken. Do you think it was potentially, they were sort of thinking of the situations they had with John Fitch, where he was sort of at one point destroying everybody, beating all their contenders, but he just wasn't doing it in a sort of fan-friendly way? I think you're right in what you say. People that really appreciate it understand how difficult wrestling is and just how much an art form that is in itself. But do you think John Fitch had a knock-on effect and they maybe want to avoid Ben Askren?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, they do have a similar style in that they both just stick mainly to their wrestling. They know what they're good at and they stick to it. I mean, I went to a local show the other weekend and there was one grappling match, just pure grappling. And as soon as the fight hit the floor, people were like, boo, stand up, stop hugging. And it's like, I mean, guys like that, bar the fact they're probably missing chromosomes, they're not going to appreciate a Ben Askren fight. And I think that is why it does go back to this whole Conor ticket sales thing. A guy like Ben Askren is not going to do that for the UFC. So why would the UFC get him on board just to risk him beating guys like Conor in a boring fashion? Well, boring fashion.
I was actually in a conversation with somebody who's not really a fan. I think he likes the stand-up aspect of mixed martial arts, and I was sort of explaining Ben Askren to him, and he said, why does he not just stand and box? And the way I tried to describe it was, I said, if you had a guy who was an absolute the best, potentially the best boxer in his division by a stretch, would you then expect him to go in and try and wrestle a wrestler? and that's sort of the same. That's the only way I could really describe it that he kind of understands. But Ben Askren, thoughts on that, Tom, yourself?
I'd like to see him in it. I'm going to be honest enough to admit I've not seen a great deal of Ben Askren. I've maybe seen the odd wee highlight reel on YouTube, but I've never actually sat down and watched any of his fights from start to finish. So I'm only going on the legend that is. But if he is as good a wrestler, I know he's undefeated and all that. If he's as good as that, then he needs to be on the big stage.
Yeah.
Just purely to prove for himself. He needs to go in there and see how he is, because he's done a lot of talking over the years about getting to the UFC and what he would do to everybody. I've seen all of that. So he needs to go. He's getting on a wee bit. It's his last roll of the dice. Get in there. He's a welterweight, isn't he? So as an interesting, he would probably, if he does sign, get thrown in against whoever the champ may be at the time. Maybe I would later till.
Well, Woodley wouldn't be great for him, because I don't think him and Woodley would fight with him being training partners. Weight, with regards to his weight, he is 185 at 1FC, but that's purely because he moved them up with their weigh-in system. Just last thought for me on this is I kind of feel like maybe Ben Askren's at an age now where he realises if he doesn't fight in the UFC, it will diminish his career greatly, and that's. I think he maybe wants to get in there and prove to people how good he actually is. Do you think there's a bit of that for Ben Askren as well? Maybe less in money now than there was before, Steve?
Well, sorry, before you jump to Steve, could it be a Ben Askren GSP?
That's the one. That's the one I would certainly really like to see. That was one that was always touted. But is it a fight GSP would take? I don't know. Because of Ben Askren's style, I feel he might be more inclined to try and fight Khabib Conor. So I don't know if that fight would tap him or better. Ben Askren would certainly take it, I believe, but I don't know if GSP would. Do you think GSP would take that, Steve?
Probably not. I'd have to go along the lines of I don't think that again would be a very appealing fight for people. GSP also has that habit of turning it into a wrestling match, and it has the potential to be a very tactical fight, but I don't know whether GSP seems to be now just hunting a champion, getting a belt, disappearing in a suave French-Canadian fashion.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to just want to take a fight against a guy like Ben, but like you were saying before, Ben's at that age now where he needs a signature win to prove. He's been saying for years that he is the best at his weight, but he's never beat anyone that says I'm the best at that weight. He's never had that massive signature win over a top guy, like a UFC standard guy. So that's why Dana's always been like, meh, because who's Ben Askren beat? If you ask 9 out of 10 people off the top of their head who Ben Askren has beat, be the best in the world, no one's going to really know off the top of their head who he's beat is worth.
No, you'd maybe need to go back to his Bellator days. I think as good a promotion as 1FC and as big as they are in Asia, they still aren't quite as big here. So most people probably wouldn't even know who Ben Askren is, to be totally honest. But it's certainly one I hope they get it done. I hope he gets in. I want to see the guy fight in the UFC. I want to see him fight against the best. And wrestling's a massive part, if not one of the most important parts of mixed martial arts. So that's so I just thought I'd throw that one in. Well, you'd mentioned that. It just jogged my memory. So we'll sort of jump along next to obviously. Demetrius Johnson lost his belt after a record-breaking title run. And immediately in the pound-for-pound rankings dropped down to, I believe, number 6. Personally, I thought it was ludicrous. So I just want to get your guys' take on it. Tom, I'll get yours first.
Well, the first thing, the UFC come under criticism for rankings all the time. And every single time they do, Dana's said it and other spokesmen have said it. It's not the UFC that decide the rankings. It is members of the media.
Yep.
So they've I don't know how many there is, but they've got a select few, whoever it may be, that vote on and agree who is the pound for pound best. They vote on the rankings for all the divisions, including the pound for pound. So the UFC are not to blame for that. It is members of the media. and it will be prominent members of the MMA media, so they should know their onions, so to speak. Demetrius Johnson shouldn't go from a top of the pile to number 6 because he won defeat after all those title defences. Of course he shouldn't. He should be sitting at second.
Yeah,
I agree. I can see why Daniel Cormier is at the top, but Demetrius, despite his loss, should be sitting number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And with regards to sorry, I should have clarified. When you're saying about the media there, I wish they put the names to the guys that are doing this, because I would love to speak to somebody that done the rankings and find out exactly where their head's at and why they done that job. I think I could probably tell you now what they would say, and it would be in regards to Demetrius' competition, which has nothing to do with the fight itself, but you just need to watch the guy. He obviously lost a close fight. Just about everybody loses fights, so I just can't get my head around the guys that are doing these rankings and how they come up with them. Steve, what about you? What do you think of that situation? Demetrius going for pound for pound number 1, dropping to right down to 6.
I think it's absolute bullshit by whoever does come up with this is absolutely off the rocker and shouldn't have anything to do with MMA. Demetrius is probably one of the most underrated guys fan-wise in the UFC. The guy is such an amazing talent. How people don't like Demetrius as a fighter is beyond me. The guy does incredible things. Like, he suplexed Ray Borg into an armbar. How that does not just appeal to people instantly, I do not know. To go from 1st to 6th in the UFC pound for pound rankings, when Conor McGregor's number 2 after he's not fought in the UFC for 3 years, it's insane to think that a guy like him can drop down that far. Yeah, I get Daniel Cormier being number 1 now. He's just won the heavyweight title. He's actually fought outside his division. TJ Dillashaw's number 3. The guys, him and Demetrius Johnson are probably my 2 favourite fighters. To watch TJ fight is an absolute pleasure. The guy's such a technical master in the sport, and he's on the verge of fighting for his 2nd division title. He's wanting to fight Henry Cejudo, or just fighting for that 125 belt. But if DJ had lost massively by 1 big punch, yeah, drop him down a couple of places, he might have had a bad night. But to come off a close split decision and get dropped 5 places in the rankings is it's bizarre. It's just DJ getting overshadowed in my view. The guy doesn't really get the dues he deserves, and this just shows that it is utter rubbish that he's number 6. And
does it play a part in it as well? Obviously, DJ has been so phenomenal, and people looked at that fight and thought DJ handled him so easily in the first fight. Do people look at that and just automatically look past DJ's opponents? Then he obviously does lose, and they're like, well, how the hell did he lose that? Maybe does that sort of thinking play into maybe why they've done that and put him down so far in the rankings?
You could look at it that way, but I mean, if you're looking at DJ's opponents and thinking, he's getting an easy path, then look at the guys he's beat. He has beaten his. Admittedly, he won't fight out of his division so much, but he's beaten a who's who, and he's literally cleared out. He's probably the only UFC fighter to properly clear out a division. There's not really anyone left who could have challenged him in that division, and to lose a close split decision, which a lot of people think he won, to an Olympic wrestler is, how can you sneer at that and drop him down that many places? Henry Cejudo is an amazing wrestler, Olympic gold medalist, and by the fact that he could only get a split over DJ speaks volumes in my mind. It's crazy.
What I think is interesting is, in fact, I'll ask you guys, should Conor McGregor even be on that list?
Well, the list.
A reason why I say that, but I'll ask you that first.
Well, the list then, to me, right, Conor, there's no disputing how good a fighter Conor is. Conor is a world-class, phenomenal fighter. But having Conor at number 2, to me, then makes the list a popularity contest in a way. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. So should Conor be on it? Maybe he should, because he's won 2 belts at different divisions. Hasn't defended them, though. So maybe he should be on it. Should he be in the top 5? Probably not. I mean, just off the top of my head, I would have DC above him. I would have TJ above him. I would have DJ above him, and I would have TJ, DC, Khabib at the moment. So I would definitely have at least 4 above him anyway. So maybe put him down 5th. So I'd probably still have him in the top 10, but.
Well, the reason I was saying that. Sorry, on you go.
What I'd like to make on Tom's comment is Conor shouldn't be. I mean, look at guys like John Jones. If John Jones hadn't been a complete prick, he would be top of that list probably by now.
Yeah.
He got a ban. He got sent away. He's no longer on the top 10 pound for pound. That's because he was a prick. Conor, as being a flat-out prick and thrown dolly trolleys through windows and injured fighters, and he's still number 2 on the list.
Mm-hmm.
What example does that set to people if someone like him, who has acted completely outside the rules, not fought for 2 years, has obviously gone off the rails at certain points, and he's still number 2 on the list? It does just make a mockery of the rankings.
Yeah. Now the reason I asked, and I'm glad you mentioned John Jones, was because now this is coming from the UFC's website itself. It says a fighter is only eligible to be voted on if they are in an active status in the UFC, right? So McGregor hasn't had a fight in 2 years, as you rightly said. He's now got a fight lined up, so he's back in the game, but he's not active yet.
Mm-hmm.
He's agreed to be active. He's not active yet, so he's not fought for 2 years. Therefore, should not be eligible. If he had been active as a 2-division world champion and out there, and before the Mayweather thing, Conor was a very active fighter, and absolutely should be on that list as a 2-weight world champion, top 5 or whatever. I don't care, wherever he may be, but he's not active.
I think
he's not active, and he's not on it.
To argue against my own point, I think the only reason for that would be that is John Jones still suspended?
Yeah.
That would he would not be active for that, which was why he's not. But Conor's not suspended, so he's technically still an active roster member.
Did the class activities been in the as John Jones obviously was out of it. We'll come to John Jones in a minute. Actually, John Jones wasn't in the USADA testing pool, so not being in the USADA testing pool, ban or for whatever reason it may be, does that then make you inactive with the UFC, whereas Conor may have been in that testing pool over the last 2 years?
It probably was, but I think we need clarification on is what defines an active fighter, because not fighting in 2 years is anything but active, whether you're getting tested with USADA or not. Active for me is somebody that actually goes to their work.
Yeah,
he's not been going to his work. GSP is on that list at number 5. He's had 1 fight and he didn't fight. He's had 1 fight in about 5 years.
The difference with GSP, though, and the only argument I would put forward with GSP is, again, it's GSP. If you're putting GSP versus Conor, let's look at GSP and his title. Although he vacated the last one, he has defended a title multiple times. So that's purely just for the pound for pound list. Whether you would describe him as an active fighter. But this is the problem. We don't know what is. There's not anything clear for us to make.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, GSP for me is up there as one of the greatest that's ever done it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not active.
No. Well, that sort of segues us into. We'll obviously want to talk about a couple of other things, but John Jones's name got brought up by Steve, and John Jones has just entered back into the USADA testing pool. He's been posting a lot of training videos. So make of that what you will, but I would assume then that John Jones is not far away from getting booked from a fight. What do you think on that, guys? Do you think he's on the cusp of coming back?
I mean, he should be. I mean, as much for all my time with MMA UK, John Jones is one guy I've always had an issue with. And every podcast, every radio thing, everything like this I've ever done, I've always had a bit of a rant about John Jones. But when that guy's on the good track, he is a phenomenal talent. Absolutely else. He is I've said it before, he is the greatest waste of talent the UFC's ever seen. If he hadn't gone down a bad path, the sky would be the absolute limit for that guy. And yeah, seeing the videos of him training again, seeing him look in incredible shape, it's good. I mean, hopefully this time, for the second time now he's been banned, it will have kicked him in the head and realised that I am messing up badly now. And I mean, he's got the opportunity to be the greatest light heavyweight of all time, and he could then have the prospects to be the greatest heavyweight. I mean, he would prove a lot of heavyweights a lot of problems. If a guy like DC is knocking out heavyweights, imagine what John Jones would do to them.
Yeah,
there's no limit to what John Jones in a good place. There's no limit to what that guy could do on his return.
Is that where your frustration comes from, Steve? Because the guy is so talented and it seems like it fritters you away. Because I mean, I think a lot of people probably feel the same way you do. You do as well.
I've said it millions of times on these shows. I cannot stand how much talent he's wasted. The only loss he has is to Matt Hamill, and that was by elbowing Matt Hamill in the head.
Yeah,
he's the only close loss win he's had is to Alexander Gustafsson. That's the only guy that's come close really to beating him. And it's so frustrating as a long-term fan to see a guy like that who is so talented piss it away on stuff outside the sport for no reason whatsoever. It's not like I don't even know. It's just an absolute waste of talent. At such a young age to be so talented and just throw it away on stupid shit. Just so frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, just to come to you with a slightly different question about it. So John Jones, if he's coming back, obviously we're speaking hypothetically now. Who does he come back and fight? Who do you see him come back in there against? With it looks like the UFC are going to try and go. They're going probably DC Brock next year. Do you think? Who do you think he comes in and fights? If not DC straight off the bat.
I genuinely have no idea. I have no idea because the fight that makes sense would be DC, but it also doesn't make sense either because that kind of ship sailed a wee bit because he victories he's had over him. So I would like to see a Gustafsson fight with him again. Because he was he's the kind of guy that pushed him right to the limit. A couple of fights back, and they're similar size and they're both really talented guys. I'd like to see him fight Gustafsson again, or maybe a wee sort of dark horse could be Latifi.
What about then? If I believe at light heavyweight for me, if it's not DC, the only matchup to make from is Gustafsson, but there is also a guy that just lost his belt at heavyweight, Mr. Miocic. Is that a possibility? Do you think could that be one they throw in there? Because John Jones is looking pretty big at the moment.
I think Stipe could make light heavyweight because I know I can't remember the guy's name, but I know one of his teammates actually walks around heavier than him, but fights in the light heavyweight division.
But
I wish I could remember his name, but sorry, Nico.
No, I was going to say, would Stipe want to make light heavyweight? Would there be any reason?
I think he likes heavyweight. I think he's in there. He's kind of owned everybody else, and he'll be wanting that belt back in there. I don't think he would come down. I think John Jones go up? I hope so.
I think naturally he's getting older in years now. I think just his sheer frame and his size. When he first came in, he was that long, skinny, dangly. He's definitely filled out more. Just going off the photos he's posted, I think it's a possibility. It's just hard to who you would match him up against. Steve, can I just get your take on that as well while we're on it with regards to a possible opponent for Jones, if not DC or Brock?
Yeah, I mean, I've got no real interest in a Jones DC3. Jones has beaten him twice. I'm not really a fan of trilogies if one guy hasn't won a fight. Miocic is an interesting fight for him. But do you throw him, if he goes to heavyweight, do you throw him straight into a former champ? Do you give him, there are so many interesting fights for him. Wherever he goes, he'll put on an entertaining fight. Gustafsson at light heavyweight makes the most sense. They had a close fight. They never had a rematch. That'd be a great fight. Alexander needs a good fight as well. So that'd be a good fight to him at light heavyweight. not really many fights at light heavyweight other than that, because he still needs a marquee name. There's no point giving him a random guy to fight, because if he does lose, then it's just like, oh well, that was a waste of time. I think, like what you were saying, from the pictures, heavyweight makes sense. The guy's looking massive now. He's, like you said, he's getting older. When you get older, you get naturally bigger. So he's going to start struggling probably now with that weight. He's naturally a tall guy, so he's gonna start getting heavier. And it cements his legacy again, taking on heavyweights, winning the heavyweight belt. If DC stays the champion, he knows he can beat DC. It makes sense to follow the path that you can beat. So if he was going to have a third fight with DC, then at heavyweight, it makes a bit more sense than at light heavyweight. And he knows he can beat DC. He's got blueprint for beating DC. He's a bad matchup for DC. So, but I would say I like the Stipe idea. Stipe is a good fighter. He has got good takedown defense and he hits hard. So he would be a tough matchup for Jones. And it would be a fight that people would look at and respect that fight. They wouldn't think it was a bit of a Mickey Mouse fight for him just to get a title shot. If he beats Stipe, which I think he probably would, he is a hard match for Stipe. Then yeah, giving him a heavyweight title shot makes a bit more sense, and it would be an interesting fight if, say, Brock and DC fight and Brock beats DC. Brock versus John Jones is a hell of an interesting fight. Bit Mickey Mouse, but at the same time, it is a hell of an interesting fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Just with regards, still keep on it. With regards to light heavyweight, I'll even put this in our way to you, Steve. Out with even Gustafsson, is there a competitive fight at light heavyweight for John Jones, do you feel?
Say that again, sorry.
At light heavyweight, if we take Gustafsson again out the picture, we're getting even more hypothetical. Is there a competitive fight at light heavyweight for John Jones? Do you see anyone that could even closely compete with him?
No. I mean, you've got guys like Jimmy Manuwa and OSP and that, and they're all guys who are going to match up badly against John. There's no one who's got that kind of that style that really matches up badly for John Jones. He's got that much flair. He's got outstanding wrestling, good striking, which is, it's not necessarily the best striking, but he's so...
Oh, we may have just lost Steve a wee bit again there.
His style would not match up well because of all the weird stuff that Jones throws. Jimmy Manuwa's got a boxing kind of style.
Right, so
in Gustafsson, there's a lot of guys who would even be remotely competitive against him.
Yeah, we've missed a wee bit. You said that you're dipping in and out, but sort of got the gist there. So I think on the UFC stuff, we'll wrap up there with Jones on the UFC, and there is a couple other things I wanted to quickly chat about. So we've got, obviously, this is especially for us guys up in Scotland. I'm sure Tom will agree. Good announcement this week with regards to the Cage Warriors welterweight belt. Scotland's own Ross Houston has, I think, more than earned his upcoming title shot on Cage Warriors 98. Ross just as a guy, he's a very, very nice guy. He's a great guy to talk to, and he's a phenomenal fighter. He's definitely a big prospect coming out of here. So what do you think about the news of Ross? It was inevitable, really. Do you not think, Tom, that this was going to happen after his last victory?
Oh, definitely. It would have been an absolute travesty if he didn't get the title fight after that last victory. He's 5-0 in Cage Warriors, actually, and that alone's a phenomenal record. And I spoke to Ross earlier in the week about it when I found out that he was getting the shot, and he is absolutely on cloud nine. He's buzzing. I think he would fight him tomorrow if he was allowed. You know what I mean? He's so hyped up for this fight. He's told me he's going to train like a maniac, and almost along the lines of over his dead body is he letting this opportunity slip through his fingers. He's super motivated, and I think it's his time. You know, he did say, he says, I've got a good feeling about this. It's just the stars have lined up. Brilliant. I really chuffed for him because he does deserve it. He talks well, he fights well. He's got all the physical attributes for it. He's a very big welterweight as well.
Yeah,
don't forget that. You know, if you've ever met him. No, it's great, and it's great for Scottish MMA, as well as the fact that he's undefeated. It all adds up. A marketing perspective as well, as a really top fight.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely. He's not. Sorry, I've lost the gentleman's name. He's fighting. He obviously he's a champion. He's Italian.
Stefan Paterno.
Yeah, I think obviously, just like maybe a lot of Italian mixed martial arts fans won't know who Ross is. We're maybe in the same boat. With regards to Stefano, I've looked a wee bit at his fights, and it's definitely you don't get a Cage Warriors belt by being a bad fighter. You need to be an extremely talented fighter, and usually Cage Warriors champions move onto the UFC if they can hold that belt. So I think the Italian Stefano is going to be motivated to keep the belt because that could open the door for the UFC for him. But obviously, I feel personally that Ross has got the ability, with I think a couple more fights and gaining a bit more experience, he's ready to move up to that level. Do you feel Ross is sort of a hair off? That wasn't a ball job, by the way. A hair off actually. I turned it into one though. A hair off getting to the UFC.
Aye. Was that for me? Sorry.
It was for you. Sorry, I will come over to Steve with this. I just saw.
Aye. Well, certainly the UFC are aware of Ross. You know, they're keeping an eye on him, and I think he gets through this fight. His call up won't be far away. I know certainly UFC Glasgow #2 in the post-fight media scrum, it was actually Joe Carr, who's no longer with UFC, but he did sort of say publicly that he would be coming back every second year to Scotland, which would be next year. So hopefully that's still in the mix, and it would be great timing for Ross. So if winning a Cage Warriors belt in October, and then a July Glasgow 3. It would just be perfect for him, and I think he's absolutely a couple more fights under his belt, maybe even this one or one after that, a defence maybe, and that gives him all that level of experience. Then 100%.
I think as well what you're saying there about obviously we were moving off the UFC, but as we brought it up, with the UFC saying they're going to come back next year, I think as well that's got to be a motivating factor for the other Scottish fighters, Scott Malone and Colin McBain, that fight at Cage Warriors, knowing that, because Cage Warriors is probably for European fighters one of the best ways to move into the UFC. I don't know if any of you guys would disagree with that at all. They seem to be a breeding ground for very good fighters, as we've seen with a lot of Welsh guys as well. What about yourself, Steve? How much do you know about Ross? Is it somebody you've paid attention to?
I mean, obviously, being in this with you, a lot of Scottish people, then I can't really ignore anyone Scottish because that's all I get in my ear. But I mean, a few fights ago, I can't remember who he fought. It might have been his first fight with Aaron Khalid, maybe. But I remember Pete saying about how he said Ross deserved a title shot off that, and I was a bit hesitant at first. But if you look at the fights he's recently had, the guy is a phenomenal talent, and for Scottish MMA, he's an absolute flag bearer. And if anyone in the UK circuit deserves a title shot, it's definitely him. The guy is an outstanding talent, and to overlook him again would have been an absolute travesty. So for him to get it's very, very well deserved, and the guy should go on to great things. And like Tom was saying, if he wins this, then UFC's got to be around the corner. He's a great talent. He's got the kind of record that people like. He's got popularity, which the UFC likes. He's got everything that the UFC would draw on. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, Cage Warriors fighters do have a habit of winning a belt and moving on, or even just putting in good performances. And if what Tom was saying is right about UFC coming to Glasgow again next year, or Scotland next year, then a guy like Ross has got to be on the card, surely. Even if it's an undercard showing, then it would make very little sense not to have probably Scotland's biggest MMA fighter of outside the UFC not on that card. It'd be a brilliant opportunity, and if he does win this title, which by previous form he should do, then you've got to think that he would be snapped up by the UFC next year. Yeah,
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Rather, So obviously, Ross, if you see this, best of luck, mate. And I believe we will definitely see him in the UFC. I don't think there's any doubt in that. Excuse me. While we're actually talking about Cage Warriors have obviously announced Cage Warriors 100. That's going to be taking place down in Wales, and we're going to have that mixed in. We're going to have Polaris with that as well. I'll come to you, Steve, obviously, as it is going to be taking place in Wales. What did you think when you first seen that sort of co-promotion, Cage Warriors Polaris?
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? It's a lot of people are doing that whole MMA and grappling show things. I know they did it a few shows up near me in Manchester, where they had a big MMA. They made a weekend of it. Say, on the Saturday had an MMA show, and the Sunday had a big grappling show. And it's good for Cage Warriors, and it's good for Welsh MMA to have a big organisation like a worldwide known thing like Polaris come down and tag on to that event. So it's massive for Welsh.
Yeah, Welsh MMA is doing great. Welsh Wi-Fi not so much. Sorry, we lost you a bit there, Steve.
Oh, just to keep freezing me in funny poses again.
Sorry, if you just what were you saying there? We lost you. It was massive for Welsh MMA. Yep, I think we've lost Steve again. Yeah, so I'll come over to you with that. I'm sure Steve will come back in at some point. What's your thoughts on it? The sort of, as Steve was sort of saying there, the mixing in the grappling.
Hey, I like the idea. I love it. Why not? You know, if you're going to celebrate your 100th event, then do something a wee bit different. So Cage Warriors 100, probably Saturday night, Polaris is Sunday. Brilliant. Get the two companies together, make the brand stronger, complement each other, make a whole weekend of it. Cage Warriors is flying at the moment. You know, they had a wee hiatus, if you like, not so long ago, and they're back in town. They're producing talent like Ross and various others. Paul McBain, of course, the Scottish ones, we'll give them a shout out, Scott Malone. So, right, it's really, Graham Boylan seems to have a plan, and he's executing it. You know, he's got the show on BT Sports as well. There's the Fight Pass tie-in, so there's the links to the UFC. No, it's going places, and I think it's the right thing to do. Is to get grappling, because at the end of the day, if it wasn't for BJJ, we wouldn't have the UFC in the first place, you know. So keep that link with MMA. It's a great idea.
Well, I think grappling is becoming a lot more known now. I think when it did start, not a lot of people really understood the jiu-jitsu side of things, but now a lot more people are starting to understand your grappling, and you speak to more people, they now know. Probably thanks to people like Ronda Rousey, in that they know what an armbar is, they know what a rear naked choke is. Whereas 8 years ago, you go to someone and say that, and they'll just look at you oddly and walk off, kind of thing. Now, linking in shows like Polaris to MMA is, people understand it, and people tag in a bit more to that weekend-long event. So it's definitely a good idea.
Also, as well, with regards to just purely the jiu-jitsu aspect of it, for maybe guys that are fans of mixed martial arts and they want to go and try something, they don't really want to get punched in the face and that, jiu-jitsu is a fantastic thing for people to go and do, and it's maybe one of those things that the more people that are actually in classes doing it, the more it'll actually push the sport on, because it's obviously not for somebody that's never done it or never really watched it. It's maybe not the easiest thing to follow and what's happening, the small movements down the ground. So I think as well, just try to push the shows on more, maybe get more people actually participating in it, where they're not going to take any head trauma, and as long as they're not training with idiots, shouldn't really pick up injuries that are too crazy. So I think for that point, do you think as well, Steve, with jiu-jitsu, it's something that you appreciate more when you do it?
Definitely. I mean, the first time you go to, that's what made me fall in love with MMA. I went and trained with some jiu-jitsu guys in an MMA class, and I spent an hour just getting throttled and bent in the wrong direction, but came out loving it. And it is just that whole learning experience of being out-muscled at first and then out-grappled, and then slowly the tables can turn and you can slowly find new avenues for doing stuff. And I find I found it gave me a lot more confidence in myself training in that, and it does breed a lot of good qualities in people, as opposed to going to a gym and
This is like early days James Hamilton.
I know, it really is. It really is.
control as well. So there's a lot of good things to come from it.
Steve, I feel like we're missing some absolute gems of information here.
It's like Mensa shit you're missing, obviously.
But so yeah, I mean that sort of wraps everything up for tonight, guys. Obviously, thanks as always for coming on and sharing your thoughts and opinions, and throwing a few poses at us, Steve. That was appreciated. And just to end the show, and the only way we could, Steve is frozen on camera. It's kind of the way the show should have ended tonight. So we'll see if Steve maybe comes back in at the end.
I'm here.
We were just thinking there that it's quite probably the best way to end the show where you're just freezing on camera. That was kind of sort of
as we went on.
Yeah. But as I was saying there, listen, guys, thanks obviously for coming on. We appreciate you coming on the show tonight and sharing your opinions with us. So thanks, Tom.
No problem. Thanks, anytime.
And thanks, Steve, if you're not frozen.
I'm not frozen yet, I don't think. Give me time.
Perfect. So as always, guys, this is the MMA UK Late Show coming at you every Thursday at 9:30. Thanks very much for tuning in again, and we will be back with you next week. So we appreciate you watching the show. Thank you.